Welcome to another episode of What's Up with WhatsApp. This is our second ever episode. The first one, we shared a lot of great things and we had really good feedback from the developer community, our audience. And so we are going to continue to make these, and I'm hoping to have more of them over time at a more regular cadence. But I've been working on something in the background, which I'll get into, that I'm going to share for why we kind of missed February a little bit. And hopefully the reason that you see is totally okay. So anyway, going right into it, I'm your host, Rashed Talukdar. I am the developer advocate for business messaging, mainly focusing on WhatsApp right now. Overall, I've just been in the tech industry for a while, if you don't know who I am. But I've done a number of different things. But right now, I am focused on building up communities through messaging using WhatsApp. And so for today's episode of What's Up with WhatsApp, we're going to go through just some product updates. Version 16 just was released a little bit ago, so I'll just go over some highlights over there. All the new developer resources that the developer relations team has put together, and we're going to go through community Q&A. We've got Sasi as like the main person, but there's actually one other individual here who joined us kind of last second, who is actually like a very welcome addition. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be really happy with the Q&A for the topic that we want to cover today. So we'll get into that. He's actually on the video right now, so you could actually see him in the little thing. But anyway, let's go right into it. So product updates. So like I mentioned, Facebook Graph API has been updated to version 16. There are a couple of new additions. We went through a quick little preview of what to expect last time on What's Up with WhatsApp so that you can kind of prepare yourself a little bit. The number one biggest thing, in my opinion, is that support for TLS, the older versions are deprecated. We only support version 1.2 or greater. This will improve performance and security by a significant margin. Sorry, I'm not defining significant right now, but it's good. And then we're also going to be removing support for Graph API version 10 and below. So you will want to migrate if you're on a older version of the Graph API. And lastly, we also removed error subcodes. I mentioned this in the last video. So instead of using the subcodes property when you receive an error, to instead map the details property instead. You will not have subcodes anymore. It really didn't provide a whole lot of information anyway versus code. And additionally, details was kind of more important, right? Human readable text, especially for logging errors and trying to triage what's going on. So that being said, those were the things that were removed. What was added? Well, we've got a new requirement for BSPs in particular. This doesn't impact other developers. So if you're non-BSP, you do not need to worry about this, but BSPs, you are now required to verify businesses. This has kind of always been the case, but this is a bit more explicit now. And this is for the advanced access permissions. So there are certain APIs, there are a number of APIs that gives you, let's say, greater capability, but in order to do that, you need to verify the business first. But you kind of need to verify the business anyway, right? So in addition to that, there are a couple of changes to the template category names. So we've removed, we've renamed transactional to be utility and one-time password or OTP to authentication, and marketing will stay as marketing. This template category name change is actually kind of in line with a pricing update that we have. I'm not going to cover pricing. You can read our documentation for the pricing updates. The reason why we're not going to cover it is because that will lead to a lot of questions and a lot of time that we need to spend on it. So we're not going to cover that here, but namely, those are the template category changes. You will need to update, review the changes and update them by May 15th. So I would recommend getting on that. All right. So addition to that, cover the templates. And then in addition to that, you actually need to provide a sample. So a sample being actually an example. So when you're creating message templates, there's an option to create an example for the template itself so that it can be rendered and previewed. This actually, you need to provide a sample/example now. This needs to be done by May 1st. So any existing ones that you have that haven't been approved, you will need to add an example to it. And lastly, for our little product updates talk here today, webhooks errors specifically now have a message property. It's not like nested into a different property anymore. So it still exists, but it's just mapped to the message property that was a bit more nested before. So that's kind of all that I have to talk about for the product update side of things. There's a QR code on the bottom left side of your screen. You can actually scan that QR code or, quickly type in the URL for the blog that actually talks about the all the changes that we've made to the Graph API, specifically for WhatsApp as well. All right, so that's that. All right, new dev resources. So I published a new blog for HubSpot. HubSpot is mainly a CRM. They've got other hubs, for like marketing and other automations that you could do. But now with this blog, we basically cover the thesis of it is that you can use WhatsApp to communicate with your customers through HubSpot CRM and kind of vice versa, receive the messages as well. You could also use this integration that I wrote in this blog to, for example, kick off other work processes, whether it's like status updates or just any other sort of communications that you might want to automate. So this blog, again, QR code at the bottom, URL, short link as well. But this blog lets you kind of open the doors for all your integration needs between HubSpot and WhatsApp Business Platform. So if you use HubSpot as your CRM, make sure you check that out. It will open up a lot of additional flows for you. All right. And the next blog that we've released is the Shopify integration. So Shopify is a prominent e-commerce platform. And so you can actually, in the blog itself, I cover and provide code as well as like instructions for actually providing order status updates. So let's say you're a customer who bought something from a Shopify store. You can now get order status updates through Shopify. In addition to that, you can actually build off of this and even like provide contact support, for example, from Shopify to your customers via WhatsApp. So you could build off of the example that I made. And the link for that and the QR code is right there in the bottom left. So fb.me/WhatsApp-Shopify-blog. So check that out as well. You get a lot of great messages for your Shopify events. Okay, now the next thing that I've been kind of busy with, and this will be available, maybe not so much now, as in like we have a minor technical difficulty with GitHub at the time of this live portion, but later on today, we will have, once we resolve the issue here, the alpha preview for the Node.js SDK will be not only available, but usable for you. And this SDK will hopefully make it so much easier for you all to build your integrations for building your applications using WhatsApp with the Cloud API. So this is written in TypeScript. It is open sourced, so it's a Meta Platforms license, which means that it's pretty much free to use as long as you use it with Meta provided services or platform stuff, which WhatsApp Business Platform is. And what we would love to see more of, because this was actually a direct result of a bunch of requests we got from the community itself, because a lot of people were asking for an SDK. Everyone wants it in all their different languages. We took a look at, what are the most common or most requested language, and it happened to be Node.js. So I wrote this in TypeScript, which transpiles into Node.js for your Node.js apps. And yeah, it's free to use, and I welcome any pull requests to help really shape and drive what this SDK does and will look like. So QR code is there, and I'll post on my social media when it's ready to kind of be consumed and tested out. But it is a very early alpha. Do not use this in production. It will be changing quite dramatically and growing and improving, hopefully quickly over time. So hopefully everyone has a good look at that. And we will look into supporting other languages. I know this is going to come. So if you want support in, let's say, like Python or Java or etc., we will think about it. But really, it comes down to, does the community overall use the Node.js SDK, find it valuable, right? Because again, this was like kind of the most requested one. And, let's see what this SDK ends up looking like, and we'll kind of take a look at other languages and supporting other languages as well. Hopefully it's a success, but it's all up to you all and how much you use it, how much you love it. So make sure to clone it, star it, fork it, send pull requests. I would greatly appreciate all that. All right. Now it's time for the community Q&A from Jaspreet Singh and Sasi Ribeiro. So Jaspreet is head of go-to-market programs. Specifically, the program that he's head of is the BSP program right now. So really the right person to ask your BSP related questions. And then we've got Sasi, who's product manager, who's involved with developer experience, as well as aspects of how can we have BSPs be so successful. So lots of questions we got about becoming a BSP and etc. So I'm gonna let Jaspreet and Sasi start going from there. So first question that we get more than anything else. I'm sure there's a bunch of you who've asked this question right now. How does someone become a BSP? Jaspreet.
Yeah. So, and you're right. I saw this question pop up like at least, 10 times in the chat. How do I become a BSP? What are the requirements for becoming a BSP? Versions of this question. So let's get straight into it. I think step one to become a BSP is you need to be a part of the overall Meta Business Partner Program, also known as MVP. I know that question also came up in the chat, so I'm answering it right now. To apply, you need to go on facebook.com/business/marketing partners and apply to be a messaging partner. Once you apply, we look for 6 areas of strength in our partners. We look for your ability to scale, and that's both in the size of your organization and in your tech. We look for your ability to bring diversity to the partner ecosystem. We're not looking for like too many partners in Indonesia that do exactly the same thing, for example. We look for your ethical reputation, what's out there about you that speaks highly of you. And then we look for strong technical skills. And finally, a BSP is expected to stay with the client all the way from sales and pitching, all the way to offering support. And so we look at your ability to support the client, your capability to support the client end to end. We look at what kind of support organization you have and what kind of SLAs you can offer. Now, the bar to be a BSP is very high, and for the number of applications we get, we have a very small percentage that actually make it. I will plug for our BSPs that they're super strong partners. They offer end-to-end client support. And in many cases, they work with developers to offer like a better offering to our clients. So that is an option. We highly recommend that you also consider working with a BSP.
That was a really great answer. And the other thing that I see kind of being asked a lot, that's related to this question is like a bit more specific on like the size, right? Because there's some individuals that are asking like, oh, I have 50 customers, right? And I applied to become a BSP. Is that enough?
So I I don't know if we have like a very specific cutoff just yet, but to give you examples, right? Like some of the smaller BSPs are doing like 30 million conversations a month on their platform. Um, the number of customers kind of depends. To be honest, if you've got like super large clients and a multinational company that has 50 million users as a customer, you might only have 20, 30, 50. But if you're working with smaller businesses who are sending like, 50,000 messages a month, you probably have thousands, if not, tens of thousands of clients. And so that's the kind of scale we typically deal with.
Love it. That's a really clear, crisp answer that I think will help a lot of people understand, like, hey, why is my application being rejected, right? Because that's really kind of a really important metric to understand and know, and helps us to set the stage. All right, cool. So for the next question, do requirements or special considerations get made for constraints due to country?
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. I think this is more compliance related almost, or legal related. So my answer is going to sound like a lawyer a little bit. Apologies for that in advance. Firstly, I want everyone to know that we don't operate in sanctioned countries. So yes, special constraints based on country. We often work with large companies that often operate across the globe. And what that means is we expect the highest compliance standards to be met by our partners as well. So we would rather meet like the highest standards, which are typically like EU standards everywhere, than have like a country by country minimum. And then finally, you should go and read whatsapp.com/legal/commerce policy to learn more about a commerce policy, because all our messages must comply with the commerce policy. And there are lots of do's and don'ts.
I think that was very legally appropriate. I think this is like a pretty effective question, and there's like a lot of different ways to interpret it, actually. But I will say there's a lot of good things to look forward to in the near future, without giving any details whatsoever, but stay tuned. We'll cover it in a future episode of What's Up with WhatsApp. But are there plans to make the process of becoming a BSP easier?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that one. So I think, to what Jaspreet mentioned earlier, once you meet the requirements and then earn the status of the BSP, then there's also from the product perspective and technical perspective, the integration, getting through the app review, getting through the business verification, all that stuff. We are going to improve the product experience for the BSP onboarding and BSP integration to make it easier. Specifically, understand we have a lot of services, a lot of portal. We're going to try to bring that together, so that it's easier for the developer to navigate across Dev Portal and WhatsApp Manager and Business Manager. And so long answer short is yes, we'll make the integration and the onboarding experience from the product perspective a lot easier and a lot more manageable for you to be able to scale and serve your customers as a BSP.
Awesome. Yeah. So, as Sasi mentioned, we are basically looking at it. And I think, again, once we come up with a concrete item to showcase, we'll cover it in blogs that we produce, as well as, an upcoming episode of What's Up with WhatsApp as well. And we'll actually guide through some of what that looks like. But this is definitely something that we hear a lot. And I'm really glad that we're not just thinking about it now, but we're looking to put things into action. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and since we have a lot of BSP developers here as well, yeah, feel free to add your feedback. Having gone through BSP onboarding as a BSP developer, what are some of the areas that you get stuck, you which is better? We'll take a look into that. Yeah, and thanks in advance for providing us feedback.
Yeah, and overall, hopefully, so far, some of the things that you've gotten is that the WhatsApp business platform is largely being shaped by you all, right? Not just the content that we produce on the show, but also what the product looks like, as well as new upcoming products or new upcoming features. The SDK, for example, is literally from community request. The BSP process is being shaped by you all as well. So for me personally, it's a wonderful company to be part of because I see how we listen to the community itself. So thank you for that. Okay. If I'm not eligible to be a BSP, what are alternatives I should consider for my business and customers? For example, adding multiple numbers to the same WhatsApp business account without a BSP.
I think this is coming from a place of sort of increased message limit. And if that's not the case, then maybe I'm answering it wrongly. But there are two options. So one, obviously, we've talked so much about it. You can work and integrate with a BSP, and they can help you with the message limits, and they can help you scale. If you are operating on behalf of your own business and you're signed up as a developer, you can request an increased message limit, and you can initiate a completion of business verification to get that number limit and message limit increased.
Yeah, and so I also wanted to add more colors to that. There is no limitation for you to scale as a direct developer. You can add more phone number, you can add more, achieve higher message tier. And so what you're going to have to do is to demonstrate, high quality from the message standpoint. You can go through business verification to get higher message tier. So there is no limitation on that. So you should be able to scale as developer.
Yeah, there's really, we're trying to find that balance between enabling all of our WhatsApp business platform users and also making sure that the user experience is as positive as it can be. And it's really, if from the perspective of that I have of just kind of being part of those decision-making meetings or listening in and finding out, like, a lot goes into it. These aren't just like arbitrary decisions that are made. We really think a lot about, are we doing the right thing? Right. And ultimately, with over 2 billion users, we want to make sure that they continue to be happy with using the platform, right? Happy with sending messages through WhatsApp as their number one means of digital communication, right? So how can we just kind of make sure that experience continues to be great while also incorporating businesses into it? Not an easy thing. All right, so next question we've got. Some API endpoints require higher access privileges, but the app needs to be verified in order to get the access. However, if I'm creating an internal only app, can I work around this issue or greenlight the account if it meets certain good standing requirements? We've seen this a few times, or something like this question, because there are use cases where people want to use WhatsApp APIs, the WhatsApp Business Platform APIs, to just communicate with people internally. And so the app review process becomes a little bit nuanced in this use case. So Sasi, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take this one. And so if I understand correctly, the question probably coming from the BSP developer, because today for the BSP apps, we require that the apps get past app review and then access verification review, because the app is actually going to be sending messages on behalf of other businesses. And so based on this question, if you just wanted to use an internal only app just for testing purposes, then you would be able to do that by, going through the dev portal and then create an like an app that is not part of the BSP app, and you shouldn't be subject to any advanced permission requirement.
So that is the last of the questions that we got from the survey questions. So when you all registered, those were the questions that we got. I mean, as well as many others, but now we're going to just take questions from the live Q&A section. So I'll read off a couple of those that we saw, and either myself, Jaspreet, or Sasi will try our best to answer them. I'm a developer, but I can just add 2 phone numbers. What did I do wrong? You did nothing wrong. This actual limitation is put into the standard developer account, right? We have taken a look at other numbers and for like different needs and stuff like that, and we found that this is a pretty good number of phone numbers per standard developer account, in order to ensure that the quality of messages are meeting the needs of the general WhatsApp user base, as well as providing developers and businesses with more than one number that they can use to communicate with their customers. I realize that it might seem limiting for some, but it is currently, and we continue to evaluate these things, but it is currently the number that we've picked for developers. And Sasi, do you have like anything that you want to add to it, or you could say no?
Yeah, and so I think to kind of build on earlier to what Rashed said, there are a lot of people using our platform, over 2 billion people. And so while we really want to make the API more accessible to all businesses and developers globally, we are held accountable to maintaining the standard. And so right now we open this access to BSP as well as developer and businesses. And BSP, they've gone through, long list of reviews. They have the partner manager that we can always keep them accountable on the quality. From the developer side, because this is kind of, anyone can use it, that's kind of the reason we have the initial limit upfront. And then as you demonstrate high quality from your message quality standpoint, go through business review, you will be able to add more phone number. So it's just kind of like the initial limit, but as you demonstrate quality, you'll be able to add more phone number and send more messages.
Let's see. Another question that we got was, my company develops a chatbot platform that could connect to various channels, including Facebook Messenger and Instagram. We'd love to add support for WhatsApp. Do you think you will ever let us use the cloud API for this, like we do for FB and Insta, or do I have to go via a BSP? Nope.
Yeah, I can take that. I think it really depends on your use case. If you're sending the messages from your phone number, or you sending messages from your end client phone number. I'll just take like an example of, DoorDash. It's a hypothetical example. If DoorDash is sending a notification from DoorDash phone number, then you can use our API as a direct developer, because even though you're serving restaurants, you're sending messages from your own account and from your own phone number. But if you're sending messages on behalf of the end business's account, that's going to require advanced permission, which right now, is coming in through a BSP, because you are sending and accessing information on behalf of other account. So that is when the BSP come to play. And so I think this is something that I think this is nuance that you can do a lot with right now with the developer experience. We even see BSP actually using both approach, sending messages from both their own phone number as well as end business's phone number. So it would really depend on your use case.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to add to that, actually. I think that's pretty succinct. So we have a question, and by the way, we're going to try to get through like literally as many questions as we can because they're quite literally flooding in. And we try to bulk up on the Q&A side of things. Let me see if I'm going to go through about more BSP questions, and we're going to mix in other specific dev related questions. So Facebook doesn't allow using ngrok or local tunnel to test WhatsApp webhooks. I'm assuming that you mean what can you, the question should go on to what can I use instead? Yeah, so there was a period of time where ngrok and local tunnel was allowed. I'm personally going to kind of investigate this a little bit further to see if we can't make it okay for webhooks just for testing purposes. But otherwise you can use other public endpoints that are kind of easy to set up. Like, for example, if you have a AWS account, you can use API gateway and route traffic to wherever you need to. You could also use, if you have GitHub and you happen to have like a project that's set up there, you could use GitHub code spaces. There's also other applications like Glitch, which is a startup that essentially provides you with a public endpoint as well. So those are ways to kind of unblock you for the moment. But I do understand how vital and important having a secure tunnel to your local machine for dev is. And I think that it would be pretty good benefit for many devs. I mean, I feel the same way. So I will try to go through that. We did allow it before. So I think that I'll follow up with you about that. So thank you for that question. We have a question directly for you, Sasi. Can you give clarity on the app verification question? I'm working with a ed tech startup and heavily using the cloud APIs as we send messages on our own. What needs to be done with verification in this to get access to advanced permissions? Context, my company's employees will use internal apps to manage template and consume higher permission API scopes.
So
it doesn't sound like they're a BSP.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. Is that so? This is an ed tech. Is this the experience being used by the internal employees to communicate with customers?
I don't think they specified all of that. But let's do
Yeah,
both.
so
Right?
it sounds like if you are an edtech company operating as an edtech company and communicating with your customer externally, you actually do not need to get advanced permission because you are sending messages on behalf of your own company, on behalf of your phone number. Anything that you are doing on behalf of your own entity, you don't need advanced permission. Advanced permission is required when you're operating on behalf of another entity. So I think in this case, you should not be required for advanced permission. If you are interested in getting more phone number, getting higher message limit, what you have to go through is the business verification, which is it's different from app review.
Yeah, and I think kind of an important or a good question to ask is, am I using embedded signup?
Yeah.
And that kind of answers it for you, whether or not you can, will, or do use advanced permissions, right? Because
I think if you think about it, embedded signup is a how for you to kind of link that external entity and for you to operate on behalf of that external entity. So if you're operating, your own startup, you most of the time you don't need advanced permission. You don't need embedded signup.
Yeah. So just let's move on to like the next question, and let me ask one back about becoming a BSP. Like, what are some benefits, of becoming a BSP for permissions, message limits, etc.?
Yeah, so obviously benefits of becoming a BSP, embedded sign-up is the big one. You can onboard end clients onto the WhatsApp business platform. In terms of message rates, it's still on a phone number basis, and maybe Sasi, you can help me out here. So your end client will have to make sure that they have good quality, or you would have to work with your client to make sure that there's good quality, and that's what allows them to send more messages. So it's not just becoming a BSP gives it to you. And then there are benefits on the financial side of things as well. So as you scale revenue as a BSP, we offer you commercial incentives. And also, like, BSPs kind of have levels too, right? So as you perform, as you grow, as you scale, and we look at your customer satisfaction and we look at your quality scores and you keep doing well, you move up these levels. You might get like a partner manager. So you get a lot more like white glove treatment as you move up these tiers as a BSP.
I see some kind of funny questions actually. Is it possible to verify phone numbers for individual accounts with a green badge to avoid fraudsters? I mean, that could be a whole other income revenue stream. We'll think about it.
Yeah, we as Meta, we just launched Meta Verify. And I mean, I'm not going to go into that because that is a consumer side thing, but yeah.
Sasi,
Oh,
is it possible to get message template titles by API?
I would have to check with the template team and get back, maybe like together with the response email. Not too close to templates, but I think I definitely heard a lot of feedback around like the inconsistent rejection and approval. And so that's definitely something that the team is working on to make it more consistent, to make the approval SLA faster.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of retrieving the list of templates that are approved and stuff like that, and get the titles. It's a good feature request.
Also, I saw a question on the green tick, and this is something that I've heard before as well. And it sounds to me that sometimes company want a green tick because they actually do not want to show up as a phone number. But and I don't know if that is, you want a green tick to want to show up as a company name, or you want a green tick because just also like the merit of the green tick. Because those are two separate things. We have display name review that is automatically kicked off when you create WhatsApp business account. And so if your display name review is approved, then you'll show up as a name and not as a phone number. But green tick is something different. I think green tick, this is a meta-wide concept that we also apply to WhatsApp. It has the notion of notability. And so you would need to have some online presence because, if you're notable, then you verify you when you get the green tick. So that is kind of the high level difference of the green tick versus other business verification.
Okay, so somebody else just asked a kind of a question that we can go back on. If they can only add two phone numbers, how do they grow to becoming a BSP size, right? Because it does become a challenge. I would say that is a really good point that you're making, something we've heard a lot. And I think that's worth addressing in the near future.
Yeah, so I think to also answer that, you don't need to become a BSP to get more than two phone number. You can get through business verification, where we as Meta would verify you as a legitimate business and trusted business, and as a result of that, you can add more phone number, and then you can then scale your businesses. And this is not dependent on BSP status.
And what's the process of doing that?
Applied apply to get through business verification. I think we can maybe include the link for the participants.
Mhm. All right. Let's see. We're coming up close to the hour here, so I'll just get through. How about like another two questions, let's say. Let me just kind of skim through some of the questions, or if the two of you have one that you saw that like you really want to answer right now, go ahead and take it.
There were a couple of questions that were kind of like getting at what does a BSP really do, or what is the role of a BSP with a client, and like maybe not in those exact words. So maybe I can try and answer that one, Rashed.
Yeah, go for it.
So again, I think I kind of talked about this in the expectations and what we look for in a BSP. They kind of own the client relationship end to end, and they often have their own platform as well, where WhatsApp becomes one channel, right? So a typical BSP will most likely have some sort of a CRM or CPaaS platform where WhatsApp is a channel. They typically have tools on top of that. So they would have some sort of conversation flow automation, chatbot, some sort of analytics that help their clients get the most out of the WhatsApp business platform. And then they work with the client through the entire sales process. They deliver the pitch. They understand client needs. They do the contract negotiations, and they offer consulting services. They also offer like creative help if and when needed. They do a full like solution architecture for the clients. How will this integrate with their systems, their CRM? And then they facilitate billing. And even for billing, sometimes they're providing like local currency billing, where even when it's not provided by Meta, sometimes they're providing like payment terms that are different or more extended than what Meta can offer. And then they offer customer support, and they're typically like the first line of support for most of their clients.
I have a question for the attendees. Why do you want to become a BSP? Right. So feel free to like answer that for me, like connect with me on social media and stuff like that, because, a lot of the use cases don't need the extra complexity of becoming a BSP. All right. I'm kind of curious on like this desire for even small startups to want to have that complexity. Do you have any kind of thought around why that might be?
I don't know. I think some developers are trying to onboard clients directly on the platform. I think that's something we limit today, and I think that's where the desire is coming from. So I get it. And I think the only option today is to work with a BSP. It's something that we should take as feedback and think about. But yeah, I think that's the option today. But also maybe I'm totally guessing, and would love to see those on social media, Rashed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I understand wanting to have embedded sign up, right, as an option for you and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree with that. I think like you could see like once your startup become larger, you want to serve other businesses, and when you want to get access to a meta sign up to operate on behalf of other businesses. And so right now we only offer that for BSP. And so definitely taking this feedback. Another thing I heard from the field is I think this nuance around like you can scale, and you, as long as you're sending messages from your own phone number, developer experience today is sufficient, but that's something that for some reason it's not landing. I spoke to like a DoorDash equivalent in India, and like based on their use case, they could already use our DevX experience, but I think for some reason it is not landing, and they are working with other BSP. And so I think I would really encourage everyone here to kind of think out of the box of like, if you have to send messages, if you can send it from your own brand or your own account, you really don't need to become a BSP, and you can really scale. There's no limitation to that. But feedback taken that, once you scale your businesses and you want to serve other businesses, then, right now, in order to do that is to get embedded sign up, and then we only allow embedded sign up for BSP. So we'll take that feedback back to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're kind of coming up on the hour. How about this? I'll let each of you kind of just give like one food for thought for attendees here, and then I'll do my wrap up. How about that? It's different.
So since I'm the BSP guy, I think the food for thought here is, with all of these questions, have you actually connected with a BSP yet? And if you haven't, I would highly recommend talking to one. There are lots of BSPs engaging with developers, often integrating solutions into their own platform or making it available for clients. Or if you're doing it even for your own business and you want to scale, like that's an option. So don't rule it out, and consider at least talking to one, maybe even to see what they do.
In addition to talking to BSP and see what you can do through BSP, I would really encourage you to try to scale through the developer experience, like Rashed just shared in SDK. We'll send you a link as part of the email on how you would get more than phone number. Understood that it's not clear now, but you should be able to scale. And I think the use case of if you can send messages from your own phone number and your own account, you can still serve your clients. And I think that's something that a lot of the developer, at least that I personally spoke with, are not aware of. So you can really do that. So I would encourage you to kind of, think through that.
Yeah, love it. Cool. All right. Well, thank you both for joining me today and answering a lot of these questions. I know that we didn't get to all 448 questions that we got. Hopefully we tried to answer as many of them as we can and could. Expect to see quite a few more interesting things coming up in the next basically this year. But hopefully this answered a lot of questions for you all in terms of like, hey, how come I can't become a BSP, or how can I become a BSP? Size is an important consideration here, but there are also other factors as well, of course. But hopefully this lets you know, like, honestly gives you some comfort in at least knowing. It might not be the answer that you wanted to hear right off the bat, but hopefully you got something that lets you move forward. Additionally, there's a lot that's going to be coming to still enable everybody, regardless if you're a BSP or not, because it's good feedback that we got, overall as well. Anyway, make sure to stay in touch with me on social media. My handles for Twitter and LinkedIn are there. You can connect with me on either one. I will send a quick little notification on my social media channels when the SDK is gone through the full pipeline on GitHub and we've resolved the issues. Definitely check it out. Give your feedback. Use it. Help shape what the SDK becomes, and we will look into providing additional support and other tooling for developers as well, just to make it easier for you all, regardless of if you're a BSP, a small startup, or mid-sized company. We're here for you. So thank you, everyone. Take care.